Let's try something new.
Oh, okay.
And begin the show with a little game.
Oh, what kind of game?
See if our listeners, through a few clues, can guess who our interviewee is today. And they cannot talk, because if she does talk, everybody will immediately know who it is.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So here's the clues. I already gave you one clue. If she talks, she'll know who she is.
Oh, yeah.
That's
okay.
a good clue.
Mm-hmm.
She is an American actress who early in her career starred in Dazed and Confused, Conehead, and Mallrats. She is known for deflowering Bud on the TV show Married with Children. She danced with an angel, John Travolta, in the movie Michael, starred alongside Adam Sandler in Big Daddy, and had multiple acting nominations for her starring role in Chasing Amy, including MTV's Best Kiss category for her lesbian makeout scene with Ben Affleck watching hurt from the side. All the while, her co-star Ben Affleck watched with a broken heart. Who is this North Little Rock, Arkansas native? Drum roll. If you guessed Joey Lauren Adams, then you are correct. Over the last 30 years, Miss Adams has acted in over 40 movies and 20 TV shows. In 2006, this talented actress added to her repertoire of work by releasing her very own film, Come Early Morning, that she wrote, directed, and advocated for, starring Ashley Judd as the lead alongside the respected actress Diane Ladd. This full-length film was shot on location in Little Rock, Arkansas, and got picked up by the Sundance Film Festival. After watching Joey's years of work on the aforementioned movie-making undertaking, it only validated what I have often thought, that actors, musicians, and other artists epitomize the entrepreneurial spirit. Successful artists like Joey, with their long careers, have tenacity, they're self-employed, they work hard, take risks, make big decisions, negotiate sales, money, and contracts, often travel a lot, and have fluctuating incomes. If that doesn't sound like an entrepreneur's resume, I don't know what does. After months of trying to pin down this busy lady, our day for visiting has finally arrived. Sheltering in place in her hometown of North Little Rock, it is with great pleasure I welcome to the table the talented, smart, hardworking entrepreneur and longtime friend, the American actress and director, Joey Lauren Adams.
Wow, what an intro. I don't know if I've ever been called an entrepreneur before, so I'm flattered.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, do you think of yourself as an entrepreneur?
No, not at all. I watch Shark Tank, and I don't ever sort of think of myself there unless I'm like pitching my idea, which I have one for the Shark Tank.
Yes. So there you go. She's always thinking. Full disclosure, your aunt, Kathleen King, and I are longtime friends. In fact, we've been friends since the second grade. But we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about I called you illustrious earlier, your illustrious career, because it is. Too many people think successful people are just born that way. But in reality, they have worked hard, they have conquered fears, and they have often grown from strife in their life. And that is certainly true for you. A rise to success can be messy, and the path, like the character, Alyssa Jones, who you played in Chasing Amy said, it's not always straight path.
Right.
So let's start at the beginning. You probably don't remember our first meeting, but I don't really remember it either. But I've known you ever since I can really remember. But because, like I said, your aunt is my good friend, and I came to your house because I think she was babysitting.
Really?
I do, for your mother.
It's funny because I don't ever remember Kathleen babysitting us.
Well, for some reason, she was at your house, and I came over. So, I remember your house. I don't really remember you and your brother and sister that much, but I remember your house was kind of modern, had a sunken kind of den.
Oh, yeah.
And a big glass window.
Yeah.
And I thought, this is the nicest, coolest house I've ever been in. Was your father in construction?
Yeah, he had Cash Lumber.
Oh.
But he actually wanted to be an architect. And his father made him quit college and come take over the lumberyard. So he was sort of what is the word? There's a word for like a suppressed artist. Like, didn't really get to do, I think, what he wanted to do with his life. So he designed that house. And then, had the people, the connections with builders and the material, obviously, to build it.
Well, no wonder it made an impression on me.
Yeah, it was small, but it was really neat.
So describe your life back then.
I mean, it's pretty storybook. Because we lived in North Little Rock. Well, I think Pikeview maybe was the name of the elementary school I went to, which was walking distance. But actually, like, when all this whole Me Too thing came up, I remembered that, like, in first grade, my first kiss was stolen from me.
From who? By who?
A kid named John Sandman, who pushed me up against the portable and kissed me. And then he would also follow me home and, like, throw me to the ground and look at my panties.
What?
Yeah.
How old was this guy?
We were both in first grade.
Well, he's aggressive for a first grader.
But it's just like you sort of think of it like, I think of my childhood as idyllic. And then when things like, the Me Too movement come up, you sort of look back and go like, oh, yeah, there were some not so great things. Do you know that it's just been going on longer than you sort of realized? And you just kind of, boys will be boys,
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, my mom was amazing. My dad was amazing. She was pretty much a stay-at-home mom. So there was literally cookies when we got home from school. And then, like, the neighborhood kids, we would play kick the can and all of those games. So it was fun. We could ride our bikes anywhere. I remember, like, getting lost, like going out into the woods and getting lost, which was amazing.
Without being kidnapped.
Yeah, yeah. And without, like it being some sort of scary thing or, or feeling a need to come home and tell my mom or, you just got home by dark.
Mm-hmm. When the street lights came on.
Yeah, yeah.
So you come from a family of beautiful women.
Yes.
And your father was very handsome.
He was.
And quiet.
Yeah.
And mysterious.
Yeah.
But he had a midlife crisis.
Mm-hmm.
Like so many people I have interviewed on this show, that strife could have possibly been what changed the trajectory of your life. How old were you?
I was in, I think I was just starting college. But I was already, because I had been an exchange student when I was 17 to Australia. So I was already wanting more out of life than what I saw around me.
Did you go to Australia to be an actress?
No, I just went to get out, just to travel. And, I didn't feel like my school at the time offered things that I just wanted to get out. I just wanted to see the world. I knew there were different people. I knew there were different things. I had met, my aunt, Kathleen, was actually a huge influence for me because I don't remember her younger. And then she, at 15, I think, went to Tulsa to be a ballerina. So I just have these memories of her coming home for Christmas and she would be, have shaved all her hair off. Or
she was
one year
exotic.
She was a vegetarian, which I had never heard of. And we were just like, you don't eat meat? Like, what do you eat then? Like, and one year she came home, she was so orange because she had been drinking so much carrot juice. And she would always bring
too much carotene in their
but
system.
she was fascinating to me. Do you know, she was out in the world. And again, like, it was just little clues that there's more going on than what's going on in North Little Rock, Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know a lot of women who were, who had careers, really. And then my mom started working for her friend at a jewelry store, and I met this woman, Retta Wolf, who was a jewelry salesman. And she made I think $200,000 a year and had a $200,000 expense account and sold jewelry around the world. And I was like, they pay you to go to Italy and sell jewelry? Sign me up. What else is there that you can do with your life that I don't know about? And then I had always, I think one of the biggest things for me was in 7th grade, for some reason they sent all the kids from sort of all surrounding neighborhoods to one school. So there was no one to play football against. So within this school, there were 7 football teams. teams, Central High. And so because there were 7 football teams, there had to be 7 cheerleading squads. And we had moved from the house you were talking about to a different neighborhood. And next door to us were 2 girls, Lindley and Cecily. And then there was my sister. And we were all sort of 1 year apart. So Lindley went, and she was, I can't remember, maybe a Raider. She'll kill me for not remembering. And then my sister went, and she was a Viking maybe. And then Cecily went, and she was a Viking. And it really was like, there was no like, will you make cheerleader? Because there were 17, like everybody, you didn't know anyone who didn't make cheerleader. Mm-hmm. And like my mom had already bought my shoes that I was going to need, and you go through the tryouts, and it was just like, am I going to be like what Lindley was or what my sister was? And went through the auditions, went down to Central, and they had the postings, and it was just my mom and I just kept going back and like reading. It's like I did not make cheerleader.
What?
Yeah.
They didn't know what they were missing.
It was pretty like, and anyone who I think maybe at the time went to that school will know what I'm talking about. But, and it was just I know it's just a huge wake-up call. It was just really odd. Like, I just remember,
so
I'm sure this didn't happen,
how
but like,
old were you
people
when this
might
happened?
have brought my mom food, you know, like.
How old were you when this happened?
I was in 7th grade.
And that didn't ruin your life on trying out new stuff? I mean, did that how you learned to be able to take rejection and take auditions?
I really think it because then I had to go, like, because then if you weren't cheerleader during the class period that like all the girls would go do the cheerleading stuff, I had to go to gym class, and they gave us like this onesie, really humiliating outfit that we had to wear. And I just thought, you know what? So I became like an office monitor. But it really was when I kind of broke from, and you're also at that, like I was 12 or 13. Mm-hmm. Like it's such an awkward age anyway.
It's terrible.
And that kind of like, it just broke me away from what I had been comfortable with. You know, it put me on the outside of what all my friends were doing.
So strive again builds character.
And that's when I really sort of got into acting. Like I had done it, always been interested in it, but it's
when you were in the 7th grade?
Yeah.
Really?
I mean, I was acting in the church when I was little.
Yeah.
Like I was playing, Mary Magdalene was my first speaking role in the church, so I've always played the whore. The misunderstood whore with a heart of gold.
That's not a bad role. I kind of like that
I know,
role.
it was a great role.
I love that.
So
your dad leaves when you're in college. You make it through high school. You graduate. You go off to college. Where'd you go?
I went to Fayetteville for a semester.
You went to Fayetteville for a semester. You're doing fine. Are you studying acting?
No, like I had made, because I wanted to go, so I had a plan. I was going to, because I also used to sit in front of Mary Steenburgen's house and think if she can do it.
Because she had already become a movie star by now?
Yeah, and it's like, if she can do it, I can do it. But then I was also like, what are the chances of 2 people from North Little Rock, Arkansas making it?
Yeah, very slim.
Yeah.
But it worked out.
Yeah. So I wanted to like when I got back from Australia.
In high school.
Yeah, I was then a senior, and it was such a step backwards because in Australia, you only go to 11th and 12th grade if you're going on to college. So it was like open campus.
Yeah.
You know, I studied playwrights I'd never heard of before. I took a photography class. I mean, they just offered so much more than what my high school had. But I did have a really amazing drama teacher in high school that was super encouraging. And so when I got back, it just felt, and it was a step backwards. And I got really depressed. And then my brother was in a really bad car accident. So I got on the work-study program so I could go to the hospital at noon and see him in intensive care. And I just wanted to quit and get my GED. Like, I was just done with it. And I was going to move to California, and I was either going to go to the Gemological Institute.
What institute?
Gemological.
Oh, so you could sell jewelry for $200,000 a year and travel to Italy. Okay, got it.
Or be an actor. Like, I wanted to be an actress, but that was my backup.
Or a gemologist.
That was my backup plan.
Those are 2 good ones.
Acting didn't work out, I would go to the school. So I wanted to quit. My mom wouldn't let me. And then we made a deal that, like, I would try Fayetteville for a semester. If I didn't like it, then she would be behind me morally in whatever I wanted to do.
And your dad's still at home?
Yeah.
Everything's still fine. Your family's still intact, except for your brother's had a car wreck.
And then I go to college, and I had worked at Cajun's Wharf on and off throughout my high school years. And the manager called me and said he had seen my dad with a woman at Cajun's. So that's how I found
He
out.
called you up and told you that?
Of course. He's like a dear friend of mine.
Boy, he's brave soul.
Still. I mean,
He's
we
a
were very
brave
close.
soul.
We were very, very close. Still are to this day.
Did you tell your mother?
No, my mom and dad came to see me. They came up for like a game or something, and we were at a restaurant, and I took my dad outside because I felt so mature at the time because I had been to Australia and like was going to California, and I just said, look, I understand, like, if you're not happy, I understand marriages don't work out, but you need to tell my mom. And he wrote me a letter kind of trying to explain, and I mean, I understand. I totally understand, and more so now, like why he did what he did.
Why?
Because, like I said earlier, like his dad had, he was not allowed to choose his life path.
I got
and
you.
He really was an artistic. Like that's where I get my artistic self from, and he had been forced to come run this lumberyard, and he wasn't really. I don't think. He was a great businessman, but he also wasn't interested in being. He wanted to do architecture, which he was amazing at. He designed the other house we lived at. I saw the plans. I mean, that was his passion, and he was not allowed to do that. And his dad was, I think, abusive and would put him down
Controlling.
at the lumberyard in front of, you know, all the other, like, you know, those good old boy men that would, and I just think, you know, he was not happy with himself and you know, found it difficult to love himself. And then it's always hard to
Love someone else.
Yeah. And then
You
next
can't.
it was like, I think it was, I mean, I know he loved my mom with all his heart.
Yes.
It was just an escape. I think with someone else, he could tell her, you know, what he wanted his story to be.
So they got divorced.
Yes.
And
Because
were you
then
already-
I went home because I, like, you know, I didn't even try at Fayetteville because I knew I wasn't staying. So then I went home and worked 3 jobs to save $1,000 to move to California. And so while I was there, things were kind of falling apart. And then I moved to California, and they used to have these parties in the daytime. And because I moved to San Diego first, because my mom's friend had a friend that I could stay with until I found a place. Because my mom was like, "You don't know anyone in LA.
Yeah.
Stay
with my friend."
I didn't have a car. I mean, I had $1,000 when I left.
And naive and hardworking.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so I lived in South Mission, and they would have like these daytime parties. And so I had a few cocktails and then went home to get a sweater or something, and my mom called. And I had been talking to her, but it was just like, she was so miserable. And I was like, "Mom, it's so great out here. You know, you should really come. You know, you could start a new life." And like, not thinking she would. And she did.
Your dad's gone. She's living alone. Are you the youngest?
Yeah.
So you're the last baby. She's in her house by herself. She's been a stay-at-home mom all her life.
Pretty much. She worked for her friend at Cave's Jewelry for a while.
Yeah. So she just says, "Okay."
Yeah. And so I had a studio apartment. So she moved out to my studio, and like,
Y'all were like sisters.
it was
out
like,
there.
it was such a like, you're cramping my style. Because I had just like,
Do you hear that, Mom? Is she listening?
she knows. But it was, I mean, it was fun. Because my dad had lost, because at that time, like, Home Depot and everything had started. My dad
Oh,
lost
that's
the
got to be tough.
lumberyard.
Yes, cash.
So
Cash lumber.
he
couldn't-
lost the business. So, you know, she didn't have any money. I was working. I got a job serving appetizers in a bar. And there was like one credit card that worked, a Sears credit card. And so we went on a shopping spree. Because when I first got there, like, a friend that I made at the restaurant took me aside and said, "We need to go shopping." Because I showed up for work at the Old Ox my first day, because I was a hostess first before I was serving appetizers. And I had this like strapless, like, really large, like, pastel floral, like, tight-fitted bodice within 3 tiers of fabric with twisted beads. Do you remember those? Like, the 3, you could do 3 colors to match what you were wearing, and white pumps.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't even have anything to say about that.
And she was like, "Let's go shopping." So when my mom came out, I was like, "Mom, we got to go shopping." So we took the credit card and went to Sears. and did a little shopping spree.
And that credit card was still on Dad's account back in North Little Rock.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's my girl right there.
Mm-hmm. And so then, I mean, it was just like, I remember one day, like, we had $5 between us. And my mom was so worried. And I was like, Mom, I'm working tonight. I'm going to get like $60 in tips. Like, we're fine.
To be young.
I know, right?
And to just have the world in front of you and to not worry about anything. I love it. So how did you get your first gig as an actress?
I like once, because my mom moved out, and then once I felt like she got a job, she was good. I moved to LA, and I was so naive, but I like wanted to get, and it was just like it's hard to even imagine now, but like now if you see Jennifer Aniston in a pair of jeans, you can get them. Do you know, like there's a tangible, like the world is smaller.
Oh,
but
yeah,
at the
they
time,
didn't have the internet back then.
Like
when you were
I
there.
didn't know the name of agencies. Do you know, like William Morris, like a lot of people will know what that name is, or, you know, bigger agencies. People, you know, and they know like Harvey Weinstein, they know that name. Yeah. Even before, you know, the whole thing. But people knew his name. A lot of people who know film.
Really, that long ago?
Yeah. I mean, I think, when it all happened, it was such a big story because people did know who he was.
Oh, there you go. So how'd you find or did you get an agent first?
No, I tried to get into the business, and I just kept meeting a lot of really sleazy people who, like, I would go to their house and they would have a stage set up, and I would read sides, and then they'd be like, "That's great.
Take your clothes off.
You're going to be famous. Let's go to dinner. Then what are you going to do for me?" And I went through several of those, and then met someone who had been like, who was it? Linda Evans' manager, I think, and I really believed him. And then he took me to dinner, and he was like, "What are you going to do for me?"
Oh.
And I was like, "Whatever it takes, Jay." And I like rubbed on his leg, and I was like, "Let's go shopping tomorrow, and then tomorrow night we'll have an amazing evening."
And then you didn't do it?
I made him take me to Fred Siegel, which, if you know LA, it's like a really, really, really expensive store in LA, and bought like cowboy boots and a dress and a Mickey Mouse watch. That's how young I was, and like what I liked. And
then what?
I didn't go, and his secretary started calling me. And
said, "You owe us something."
She's like, "You get your butt over here." And I was like, "I'm not coming."
She was hooking him up. She was his pimp.
Yeah, and then he finally called me, and he was like, "You get over here." And I was like, "I'm not coming." And he said, "You will never work in this town again." And I said, "If it takes sleeping with old men like you to work in this town, I don't want to work in this town."
You hear about that all the time.
Yeah.
You have a story. There it is, right there. I mean, you hear that all the time.
Yeah. So then I met an artist and went, he was leaving in a month to go live in Bali to do a sculpture, some sort of sculpture piece. And so he left me a couple of paintings, and he said, "If you can sell them, buy a ticket and come see me." So,
what?
So I sold art.
You sold art?
I was selling those, and
I can't believe you don't think of yourself as an entrepreneur. This is so entrepreneurial. This whole thing, selling yourself, but not really selling yourself, but you know, working and applying and going and doing through hook and crook.
Right.
That's really amazing, Joey.
Think like looking back now, like you said, it's like I could never do that now. But like when you're young and like even like following some guy to Bali doesn't sound appealing to me now. But at the time, you know, we didn't have like he left, and I had gotten one letter from him that said he was at Simon's in Ubud. Like that's the info I had. Like, come if you can. I'm at Simon's in Ubud. And so my mom was dating this guy who was trying to get rid of a Norman Rockwell collection.
No, that is not true.
Yes. So I called the
No, that is not true.
Yeah, so I called the Japanese Business Association in LA and got like all their numbers and like hand typed letters like to every one of them and mailed them, like trying to sell like 2 of James Mather's paintings in a Norman Rockwell collection.
Did you sell them?
No, but I did end up selling like one of his paintings and got a ticket and bought him some paint and literally like flew halfway around the world and landed in
Said, "I hope he picks
Bali.
me up."
No. He didn't even know like when I was coming, or there was one phone in the town at the police department. Like, so I flew in to Denpasar and then got in a cab and just said, Ubud. And the cab driver started driving, and we drove for like an hour up into the mountains, and it was like 10 o'clock at night, and I was just kind of looking for anyone to say like, Simon, do you know Simon? And then finally someone like pointed, and I walked up the stairs and into this, Balinese kind of style house, and there was a Balinese man there, and I was like, do you know James? And then I saw some of his art, so I knew I'd found him. Mm-hmm. And he was like, he'll be back. And I said, no, where's the nearest bar? And he was like, across the street.
Boy, did you need a drink by now.
And it was a really small little town, and then like I'm walking up the stairs, like it's on this little hilltop, and I'm walking up the stairs, and I start hearing like really faint, like old blues music.
What?
Yes. And I had felt like toilet paper, like not knowing what I was walking into.
Why'd you have toilet paper?
Because I didn't know.
Just in case?
I did't know like what. Again, you couldn't go online
you don't
and see
care
like
that you can't talk or you don't know if he's coming, but you got your toilet paper.
Yeah. I'm prepared.
Okay.
At least for a few days. Yeah, and then I walk in the bar and I like saw someone. It was this really small little bar, and I thought I saw James, and it wasn't. So then I went to the bar and asked the bartender, like, do you know James? And then I hear Joey, and he was like standing right next to me. And I was like, oh, I'm here.
How long did you stay there?
4 months.
Joey, people can't even relate to that story unless you lived before the internet and cell phones. They don't understand that we just went out on fate.
I know.
And I look back sometimes and think, wow, I'm alive.
Yeah, and I'm also like...
You're alive still.
I know. But I also feel like blessed to have lived in that time, where you could do so. I mean, it was such an adventure. Mm-hmm. And, like finding him was, I can't believe like I did this and like sold a painting and got here.
I can't believe I even got ready for the show and we've got stories like that to tell. I mean, why am I even here? Those are just fabulous. I just want to tell everybody before we go to the next story that you're listening to Up in Your Business with me, Kerry McCoy, and I'm speaking today with director of Come Early Morning and actress of over 40 movies and 20 TV shows, Miss Joey Lauren Adams. All right, you're in. Well, do you come back to L.A.?
We come back to L.A. and then, and I was still like interested in acting, but I was also just kind of like caught up in, this relationship. And then he got a job doing the paintings on a film in New Orleans that Nick Cage was going to be in. And Nick Cage was playing an artist, so James was going to do the paintings that they used in the film. So the production put us up in a great apartment in the quarter.
In New Orleans?
Yeah.
Is that where you met Kevin?
No.
Smith,
the
director?
No.
Okay.
That was much later.
Okay.
But that's where then, like, I remember seeing, like, I was like baking like biscuits for the crew, and taking it to, like, in the morning, taking them food and just going to set. And like, it was the first time I was able to be on a set and see what it was like. And I just remember thinking, like, I know I could do this. I know I could do this. I was watching the lead actress, and the writer was a female writer who was super cool, really, really smart and amazing. And I became friends with the producer and his girlfriend at the time, later became his wife. And so they left. We stayed in New Orleans for a little bit longer. But then when I got back, that producer called me and he said, I want you to go meet a casting director. She's casting this show, and I think they're having a hard time. And I want you to go meet her.
What show was that?
It was Parenthood.
Were you in Parenthood?
No, I didn't get it. But
I was about to say, I didn't see that in
but I went and met the casting director, and then she said, will you come back and read? And of course, I'm calling my grandmother, like everyone, like I'm going to read for a casting director. And then I went and read, and then it just like, it was the most nerve-wracking experience because it's like, I was nervous to just go meet her. Then I had to go and read for her. And I think the first time I met her, she had me read a scene from Mystic Pizza.
Oh, yeah.
And so I did that. So then she was like, okay, here's the real sides, and I want you to come back and do a real audition. So I did that, and then you wait to hear, and then she's like, okay, I want you to come and read for the producers. So then
you got callbacks.
Yeah, so then I went and read for the producers. And then like the producers, a couple of them wanted to have like a private like work with me. And I think I think they were attracted to me because I was refreshing in that, like, they were like, you know, what have you been doing? And it was like,
Well, you're not like anybody else.
But
you're
also
not
I
like
wasn't
anybody.
like, I've, you know, just did this play. It was like, I've just been come from Bali and New Orleans, and they were like, what?
And Australia and Arkansas.
Right. And so it just kind of kept going on and like calling back and then waiting. And then I think they're going to test you. And then if you, like all network shows, they usually have like 3 people come read for the like suits, the network.
The suits.
Because you have to have your contract negotiated before you go in.
Did you have an agent?
Well, then I was able to get an agent because I tested for the series. So I went saying, this is my first audition and I'm testing for network. So I was able to.
Did they assign you an agent?
No, I met with a few and just decided, which I think was smart at the time, but like to go with a smaller agency.
Yeah.
Because of course, like all the big ones were like, yeah, we'll sign you. Like,
yeah. Who cares? We'll just throw you in with the pack.
Yeah, exactly. And so I went with a smaller one and a woman.
But you didn't get it.
I did not get it.
How did you handle that rejection?
It was hard. It was really, really.
A lot of people quit after that. They're like, okay, that was too hard. I've got to quit.
Yeah, but I don't like. Everyone had been so nice in the process, and I didn't feel like I felt like I had done good. Like I felt like I don't feel like I made it to network and then like lost it.
How do you buoy yourself? Where do you find this courage? I mean, really, think about all the stuff you've done. How old are you now?
52.
No, not now. I mean then.
Oh, I was 20. I was 22.
How do you buoy yourself at 22? How do you keep that drive? Where did that drive come from?
I don't.
Are you trying to prove something? No, you just wanted it out.
enjoyed
You just wanted it out of
like,
where you were.
But I think like I do think that like because I wasn't good at like algebra and I wasn't good at certain things and like the casting director's name was Jane Jenkins and she was like a big casting director at
and
the
you had
time.
to have a job.
Well, no, it was the validation. Like I did good. Like I went and met with her and I read a scene from Mystic Pizza and I did good.
And you knew
know, and it was I hadn't heard a lot in my life. You did good. You're good at that. I hadn't heard that. The only place I'd ever heard it was like from my acting teacher in high school, and then this, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it felt good to be told that, and to be told you're good at something, and then like when I went and read for the producers, like I did a good job, and I made it my first audition to network. So I wasn't.
But you did finally get on TV. I think that was your first gig.
Like a month later, I and this was like, you know, and again, like you go and you're just told, no, you're told, I mean, you're told your boobs aren't big enough. You're told, at the time, you were told like,
I know. They tell you that all the time.
You can feel it when you walk in the room. Mm-hmm. But I went and auditioned for the show that was going to be a spinoff of Married with Children. And I was sitting in the hallway and I was just in a good mood. And
so exciting.
This guy walks down the hallway and he looks like he could be the delivery guy. Like he had on like baggy kind of ripped jeans before that was popular. Like
Bud?
In a
Are you talking about
t-shirt.
Bud?
No, and he had like really stringy hair and just this like stretched out t-shirt. And he had like a Coke and he's walking down the hall and he's like, you know, I said like, hey, how are you? And he stopped and he looked at me and he's like, I'm good. How are you? And I was like, I'm good. I'm about to go audition for the show, you know. And then when I walked in the room, it was Ron Levitt, who had created Married with Children and was the creator of the show. And he was like, hey again. And my audition was one line.
What was it?
You know I don't like boys, Mama.
Well, really? I watched that show. I don't remember that.
I was playing like a 15-year-old or something in the show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so, so I got that job, I think, because I had said hey to him in the hallway when most people were kind of like, ew, who is that? And then, then it just sort of.
And then you get the Chasing Amy gig.
Years later, yeah.
Oh, was it years later?
Oh, my God, yeah.
How long?
I mean, I did that show, which is called Top of the Heap. Then they revamped it with just, because it was like Joe Bologna and Matt LeBlanc and I. Then they revamped it. And then I did Dazed and Confused. Was the first big film.
Oh, was
I
that
got.
before Chasing
Yeah.
Amy? Is that where you met Kevin Smith?
No.
It wasn't he the producer of or director of Dazed and Confused?
Rick Linklater directed Dazed and Confused, but it was the same. It was Jim Jacks was a producer for Universal on Dazed and Confused.
So you
And
did Dazed and Confused, Conehead, and Mallrats. Those were all different directors?
Yeah.
Really?
Dazed and Confused, and then I did this film. I forget the name of it, with James Caan. And then Jim Jacks was saying that there was this movie,
You have done
Mallrats.
so many movies, you can't even remember.
I
You
know.
probably haven't even seen them all. Was it
The Program?
The Program.
Yeah.
I got it right here.
So then Jim Jacks.
Now,
who
this
had
is
produced-
1993. You just did The Program. And you didn't do Chasing Amy till 1997.
Yeah.
So you're right.
90. We may have shot it in 95, and it came out.
You
maybe.
must have, because I saw Michael with you dancing with John Travolta. Is he really cute in person?
He's so nice.
I've always, I don't really fan over movie stars, but I kind of over him.
I know. Well, we grew up like singing like the Grease songs, and
I just watched it again the other day with my granddaughter. It's a great
Yeah.
show for
Yeah.
teenagers if you haven't seen it. So yeah, Chasing Amy actually came out before in the movie theaters. I think before Michael.
Did it?
I think so. They're neck and neck.
Right.
96 and 97. No, it says Chasing Amy came out the same year after. Maybe I just saw Michael later after.
Right. Because I feel like I did Michael before Chasing
So let's
Amy.
talk about Chasing Amy. That I know is Kevin Smith. He says
And he did
wrote
Mallrats.
it for you.
He did Mallrats. So because Jim Jacks, who worked, because they were both Universal films. So Jim Jacks, who had produced Dazed and Confused, brought a lot of people back in to audition for Mallrats, and that's a whole nother long story about rejection. And like, I didn't get the part originally.
In Mallrats?
Yeah.
Did you get a different part?
No.
Oh, you didn't eventually get it?
No, they gave it to Parker Posey, who was staying with me at the time, because we'd become friends.
Which with a B
And I
right
started
there.
crying, She's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, I'm not getting the part. They're giving it to you. But then she couldn't do it. And then it was just awful. And then finally, like, they called and were like, okay, they do want you.
Well, I
So I was a
wondered
little
why when
pissy
you Google
walking on
your
set.
images, Parker Posey's pictures show up. I thought, why is Parker Posey's picture showing up?
Yeah, we
next-
did several films together. Because she was in Conehead. She was in Sleep With Me.
So, did Kevin Smith write Chasing Amy for you?
Ish.
He says he did, or
Yeah.
I have kind of read some.
Yeah. I mean,
some quotes of his.
definitely. Yeah. I mean, he had a version of that film that he wanted to do after Mallrats. That was more like it was going to be a studio film. It was going to be kind of John Hughes, and I think like there were going to be high school kids who maybe one was lesbian, and then I was going to be a teacher, and Ben Affleck, we were going to be teachers somehow in it. Like, it was a different sort of film. And then Mallrats came out and tanked, and that really threw Kevin for a loop.
And you were dating him now.
Yeah, we had started dating.
And you brought him home for Christmas.
And yes.
Is that a story, or is that not a story?
It's not.
Not a good story?
Well, it's a good story. Like he gave really funny Christmas gifts. He's funny. I mean, he's funny, and I mean, my family loved him. He's a really like sweet, funny guy.
And so he also Dogma. He wrote also for you, and you were going to be the lead in that, but you two broke up because I think you started dating Vince Vaughn.
No.
Why'd y'all break up? It wasn't all around in that same area.
Well, because I mean, it's complicated.
So when you make your next movie, is it going to be about your love life?
No.
It would be a long and winding road.
It would definitely. Yeah.
All right, Chasing Amy. That role was so big and so huge and was probably a B movie, but you got so many accolades for it. And you got nominated for Best Kiss with a Woman.
And for a Golden Globe.
And for a Golden Globe for up-and-coming actress, I think it was.
Best actress in a comedy.
Best actress
in
in a picture, musical, or comedy.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
It was crazy.
Is that why you ended up? I saw you on the Tonight Show. Was it after Chasing Amy that you got on the Tonight Show?
Probably, yeah.
And was that with Jay Leno?
Yeah.
Was he the host at the time?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I remember about that? Your agent picked your dress.
Oh, really?
Do you remember that? And you didn't like it. And I could tell through the whole interview you were like, I hate this dress. So that's when you're like, okay, I'm getting a new agent. So didn't you also get invited onto the Saturday Night Live, but you declined?
No.
Yes, you did.
No.
I was there at your house
Really?
when you got the invitation
Really?
in Los Angeles. Yes.
And I said no?
You said no.
Why?
Because Vince Vaughn didn't want you to.
Oh, really? Well, that makes sense.
It does?
Yeah.
Why? No, she's no comment on that. Okay. So let's talk about the life as an actress.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds incredibly stressful. How do you prepare for all the roles? You've had 40 films, 20 movies. You have to memorize all of that, all those lines. How do you prepare for a movie?
It depends. It depends on the film. Like with Dazed and Confused, we had several weeks of rehearsal before the film, and Rick was very kind of open to letting, like Parker and I wrote scenes nonstop because Rick was like, improvise, do whatever you want, and so we would write scenes, and he would say, yeah, I'll shoot that, or no, I don't want to shoot that.
Which movie is this?
Dazed and Confused, the very first film I did. So that kind of like spoiled me to some degree, because the next film I went and did, like I wanted to change a line, and the director was like, shut up, and walked away, like, and I was like, oh, there's, and then Kevin is like, you can't change one syllable in his writing. But on Chasing Amy, we rehearsed, because that was an indie film that we did a lot of like just masters of the scene, so there was no cutting.
You did what?
Like just a master, like, so there wasn't like, we can cut the performance together. If you mess up your line, that's okay, we're going to get it in a close-up. No, but like we would have to be able to get through an 8-page scene without messing up and do to the performance level.
That sounds so hard.
It was difficult.
Is it invigorating? Do you love it?
Yeah.
That's why
when
you
you
do
nail it, it's amazing, yeah. But we rehearsed a lot,
This is such an intimate thing that you do with all these actors that you've performed with and you've trusted and you've been on screen with, and you've got this intimate relationship with them. I always think about that when I'm watching these films of people working together. I'm thinking about how much trust must goes into that. Do you make long-term friends out of that, or what is the relationship that happens after you've done a film with
younger,
somebody?
I think we did more so than people, like you get older and people are married and have kids and a life and whatever. But it really is kind of like it's very much like summer camp, or I always thought like the circus, but it's like it is like you get close with people very quickly. And like if you were on a football team, I kind of imagine it like that. Like if you're on a really good football team and you win the Super Bowl or something, but it's when you all get together and you become bigger than the one person. That to me is like very godly, if that makes sense. But
spiritual.
And that's what I really enjoy about it. But you form these very intense, kind of abnormally close relationships in a short amount of time. But then, like, I remember the end of Dazed and Confused, like it was Parker and I were sitting in a tree and she was talking and she was like, it's so bittersweet. And I was like, that's the first time I've understood the meaning of that word. It was it was exactly
You're
that.
tired, ready for it to be over, but
it's and then like you just sort of get used to it, and then that like you're gonna get really close with these people, and then you probably won't ever see them again. You may not. If you do, it's great. If you don't,
would you recommend that acting career to somebody today?
Yeah,
you would.
Yeah,
you think it's better or worse than it was when you started off?
It's just different.
How's it different?
Because now like fame is a different thing. You can be an influencer. You can have a YouTube show, which, there's a lot of freedom in that. Like, when I like was trying to be an actress, you had to go to LA.
Do you still have to have an agent?
It helps, but like now you could, like, if you want to start in acting, you could go to Atlanta because most TV shows cast. But when I started, there was like ABC, CBS, NBC, and Fox.
That was it.
That was it. Those were the only people making TV shows, and now there's a gazillion TV shows. So any show that shoots in Atlanta, like they're kind of, like if you're just starting out, the parts that you would be auditioning for, they cast local. They're not going to fly someone from LA and put them up in a hotel and rent them a car and to cast someone who has like 6 lines in a show. So there's a lot of great agents in Atlanta. But you can also just go out with, your phone and shoot something and edit it on your computer.
I'm telling you.
It's crazy.
It's crazy
Yeah.
good. All right, let me tell everybody you're listening to Up in Your Business with me, Kerry McCoy. I'm speaking today with the actress and film director, Miss Joey Lauren Adams. You are also a director. Come Early Morning is your movie. I went on the set while you were making that movie. It is grueling. I could never be in that business. It's slow going, and you work grueling hours.
Yeah.
You work from sun up to sundown. Well, past sundown.
Yeah.
For 3 months. Solid. So you wrote that script. You directed it. Did you help find the cast members?
Yeah.
We don't have long, but I know. Did you go to Clarksdale, Mississippi? Or is it Clarksdale, Mississippi? Did you write it down there?
No.
So you came back and your location was in Little Rock, Arkansas for the film. And then I came out and watched it in Sundance, and I got really upset and started crying really bad. I think I'm going to cry again right now.
Oh.
And it's because it reminds me of your family.
Yeah. Well, they say write what you know, so that's what I did.
Was that cathartic for you?
Very. Extremely cathartic. It was when I was able to finally forgive my dad.
Mm-hmm. So in the movie, I can't remember if your dad was passed when the movie
No, he was there.
He was still there.
Yeah, which was a little weird. Because I just wondered, did he... Like, he came to the premiere. We did one here in Little Rock, and he came and brought me flowers. And I know that he knew... But the whole movie is about... Again, it's like... To me, like... The Bible says, I am the truth. Jesus says, I am the truth. I'm the way and the light. So to me, that's where God exists. Anything could exist in the truth. And so that movie is all about the truth. And there's a scene, you probably remember, where Ashley goes to his house. Like, she's so frustrated, and she wants to talk, and he just plays guitar for her. And I remember writing that, and I wrote so many versions of that scene, of this is what the dad's going to say. And it was all the stuff I always wanted my dad to say to me, and I kept not working and not working and not working. And I kept thinking it's the writing. And I worked so hard. And then I was finally like, you idiot. Like, you've created this character who's based on your dad who doesn't talk. Like, of course he is never, like, you were such an asshole for wanting him to. Like, that is not who he is. And that's why the scene isn't working. And it's never going to happen. And you have to let him be who he is. And that is living in the truth. And it set me free.
Well said. It's the end of the show.
Oh, wow. That went fast.
I know. Will you come back?
I will.
All right, we're gonna broadcast next time live from the Dreamland Ballroom. We're gonna have a YouTube channel.
Nice.
Another year from now. Next time, I know you've got another program. I know you've got another show you're writing.
We just went right before COVID hit. We went out a week before everything shut down. We went out with my next script.
Yeah. I know you've got something in the books because you always do. All right.
Kerry, thank you.
You're welcome. I've enjoyed it so much. I have a present for you somewhere. It's a U.S. flag.
Nice.
Might
An
have been
Arkansas
what you
flag.
knocked off the counter
I
there.
think it is what I knocked off. I'll find it. It's a U.S. flag, an Arkansas flag, a Mississippi flag
and
because
a
you lived in
California.
Oxford, and a California.
I wondered why you had a California flag out.
For you.
Yay.
Did you tell me before the show you lived in Tennessee? No.
Well, I was in Nashville working.
No, you didn't live there. Okay, good. I was about to say I left the state out. So
No,
yeah,
no,
you've
no.
got a flag for your desk
Yay.
from everywhere you've been.
Yay.
Flag for
Thank
everywhere.
you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks so much for coming. I want to tell our listeners, thank you for joining me and Joey today. We've had a great time. Thank you for spending time with us. I know you've heard and learned something that's been inspiring or enlightening, and I know whatever it is you heard will help you up your business, your independence, or your life. I'm Kerry McCoy, and I'll see you next time on Up in Your Business. Until then, be brave and keep it up.
If you liked this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking on the picture of Kerry's face in the center of the screen. For more of Kerry's interviews, click either video on the right of the screen. And as always, thank you for watching.